Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today is Wednesday, May 29th. I'm joined as always by June and by Tracy. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Everybody yeah, we've just come off of a 3-day holiday. Now, for most people, there is something about that post-Memorial Day weekend where the July bar exam gets very real. We're at about 60 days, I think, until the exam. Is that right, Tracy?
62.
52. All right. So there we are. And I think for a lot of people emotionally, this is the time when it feels like, okay, we're in that 2-month sprint to the exam, but it's not really a sprint, is it, June? It's more like a nice, steady, move your way step by step as you go along and get through it all, right? So that's what we're trying to do there. We are taking some questions from students. We are talking about some tools and updates and things that we've got going on. And we're going to also play a little bit of a clip from a student that we talked to recently who passed in the UBE. And I think that will be interesting for people. Let me start. And then, Tracy, you're going to talk about pub crawl, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Should be interesting. The next thing we want to talk about is a new offering. And we're very excited about this. Tracy, you and I have been working on this for a while. We have done some virtual boot camps and we've done some boosters. And we also recognize that there was a real desire from existing students to be able to level up their studies in specific areas where somebody would say, yeah, I really need to work on MBE, but I don't need to work so much on mind mapping, for example, or I need mind mapping, but I don't need photo reading or whatever it might be. And so we have developed what we're calling Level Up Day, which is Saturday, June 15th. And Tracy, maybe you can explain a little bit about what Level Up Day is.
Jackson and I have divided the day into 1 hour blocks. We are going to be personally available to you to work on whatever issues you have in your lead up to the bar exam. There is published, I think somewhere, Jackson published a listing of when we will be available to do certain topic items. There'll be no more than 3 in any one item, and I know the MBE slot for Jackson already has 2 people in it, so there's room for 1 more, and that's it. If more people want that, we have some extra hours that we can bleed off. The idea is that you will get very close attention from us for a full hour on whatever you need help with.
Yeah, and we'll ask June to put the link up to order. The way that this works is that once you go to the order page, you'll see the schedule. I am taking the morning hours, 4 blocks, and then Tracy's taking the afternoon with 4 blocks. We decided with this particular offering that we'd keep the limit in each session to 3 students. The reason for that is to provide the highest level of personal attention that we can give during that time frame. Each block costs $100, and you can register from anywhere from 1 to 8 of those blocks, and it's all on that same page. So you just go to that link, you look at the different blocks, sign up, and we will get you all set. If someone is in the essay writing blocks, I know you're doing a couple of those, Tracy, they're actually going to write an essay before Level Up Day. Is that correct?
That's right. And then we'll go through it, but I'm going to need your essay in advance so I can look at it and be prepared to jump right in and help you.
And we're doing the same thing with the performance test. We're going to ask you to draft a performance test beforehand. We're going to be talking about photo reading. That's one of the blocks, and digging into photo reading and whatever those 1 to 3 people want to talk about with photo reading, that's where we're going to go. We're also going to do the same thing with mind mapping.
I think so, because it'll give you an opportunity to actually come with 1 or 2 mind maps and have us look at them and make suggestions about how they might serve you better.
Yeah. And then I am doing a block that's just an AMA, Ask Me Anything. This is basically 1 hour available for 1 to 3 students to answer any questions that you've got. I'll do my best to answer them. And an open office hours type of arrangement. But I'm looking forward to that. We've already had some signups for that hour. So again, spots are starting to fill. And I would just say that if you're watching or listening to this when you're thinking, that could be interesting, check out the link, go look at the different blocks and sign up for the blocks that you're interested in. And again, you can sign up for 1 block or right all the way up to 8 blocks. and take care of it that way. We're also offering a buy now, pay later option for this, depending on how you're doing it. It could be a very affordable fee for over several months using Klarna, Firm, or Afterpay. But we really hope that you'll take advantage of this. Our hope is to do several of these. Frankly, we'll see what the reaction is. I'm pretty encouraged by the number of people that have already started to enroll, aren't you?
I am. There seems to be a lot of buzz around it. However, you need to hear this will be the last one before the July bar exam. So this is your last opportunity to get personalized help very close to the exam time.
Now, I want to be really clear. This is different than individual coaching that Amanda does, Tracey does, that I do, or than June's Calming the Chaos. There is still the opportunity. I had a student email me this morning and say, when can I enroll for coaching with me? And the answer is you can enroll anytime. To get the most benefit out of those coaching sessions, you should begin sooner rather than later. You'll recall that we offered an opportunity to upgrade to coaching. A lot of people took advantage of that. My schedule is starting to fill up. Tracy's is starting to fill up. Amanda's still got some capacity, but certainly beginning to get filled up. And so if you're thinking about adding the 8 calls with me or 10 calls with Tracey or Amanda, you should do that really as soon as you can. Again, there's the opportunity to pay for that over time. And I would not wait too much longer. As we come into the start of June, this would be the time.
I think so. And because we offered the last 10 days, we offered a killer deal on 5 coaching calls. Jackson and I are loading up on those. And so we do have some time left to work with you, but don't wait. This is the time now. If you wait until too close to the exam, it's going to be too hard for you to assimilate the information and make changes in what you're doing and make it work for you. And congratulations for those of you who did sign up for it, because I think it'll be very helpful for you.
Yeah, you had a really interesting phone call with a student that took advantage of that offer who had taken the bar exam previously. And I got the essay that they sent me, and it had a lot of good things in it, but it also had some clear weaknesses. And we were able to go through those and talk about the scoring and talk about the structure and the mechanics and then dig into the substance. And I think it was a real eye opener for this student that what they thought had been working well, this was a UBE student, and we went through the essay. And when we did the whole essay, came back and said, this essay would have gotten a 3. And here's why, based on the examiner's scoring. And the student was flabbergasted because they thought it would have been a better score. But when we broke it out this way, they could see what it really was. And I think it's getting that kind of directed feedback that can really help you begin to see what you need to do in order to improve. I'm sometimes frustrated, to be honest, when we have students that sign up and then tell me that they are doing the FLA writing method, for example, and I see their essay scores and they're just not what FLA would produce, or they're photo readers and I see their MBE scores and they're not what they should be. You really sometimes need that extra accountability and feedback to show you what you think you're doing, right? There's this disconnect. I thought I was doing what you told me to do, but it turns out it wasn't exactly what it takes. Get the help that you need. You've made such a big investment to get to this point in your legal career. It's a shame to just suddenly turn off the engine here and think you're going to coast into the exam. The exam is not something you can coast into anymore. You've really got to power all the way through it. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish about this. Make sure you get all the help you can get and the support that you can get. I also want to mention, we've been talking the last couple of weeks, Tracey, about the California exam and February of 2025 and some of the changes there. We don't have any new information this week, thank God. But at some point, California, Nevada, some other states are going to announce what they're doing. And maybe it'll happen in February 2025, maybe not. But the point I want to make today is with 60 days out, this is a time when historically I begin to see people deferring and saying, I just can't be ready for that upcoming exam. I'm going to wait till the next one. And normally I would say, no problem, go ahead. And certainly in our course, there's no charge to postpone, and you can postpone as often as you want. But I think it's a bad strategy right now, don't you? I think if you're signed up for the July test, I would try to take the July test, whether you're in California or someplace else.
Yeah, you still have time to get ready for the California test. And I think the known quantity of what we have in front of us is a better solution than trying to wade with California into this experimental test format that they're going to do next time. We will get information as it is released and we will impart it to you as soon as we have a chance to digest it and figure out what it means for you. But I think it's a risky move to hold off.
Yeah. And I would say that even though we don't expect Florida or Texas or New York to change their exams in February of 2025, nothing is guaranteed right now. This is as volatile a bar environment as we've had since really COVID, before that for decades. And so it is much better to take the test than to have the test suddenly changing and different questions and different formats and taking it at home versus coming to a test center, all sorts of unknowns here. And generally speaking, I do not like unknowns. I would much rather deal with what we know and what we know works to get you through that. If you're on the fence about postponing into February of 2025 in any jurisdiction, I would recommend against doing that unless there's just a hard reason to pull back. And I'm going to take one of the student questions we got today because it really mirrors this. We get this question every week, but we got a lot of it this week. It is, where should we be in our studies at 60 some days out before the exam? Everybody is at different spots. It's not so much where you should be today, it's what you have to do to get to the end. And you can do that calculation relatively easily. What you should do is figure out where you are in your online course today, and then go down to the section, the unit that is the review. The goal is to get into that review part of the course around July 10th. Now, that's not a hard deadline. That's a soft deadline. That's just designed to give you a bit of time to start leaf capturing and doing full-length tests and reviewing weak areas and so on. But essentially, if you look at the number of units that you have remaining until that review, and you divide that at this point by about 40, 45, something like that, that will tell you how many assignments you need to accomplish per day. For most people in the course, you should be able to stay at about 20 hours a week, which works out to roughly 6 to 8 assignments per week, and be ready for the exam. Now, that isn't to say that when we get into mid-June, you might not bump it up a little. Get into July, you might bump it up a little bit more. But if you are doing the work now, there's very little bump you have to do later. The challenge, of course, is that people say, going on vacation, I'm doing X, I'm doing Y. I'll start my studies June 10th or June 15th. I know that's what they do at the big box bar review, but boy, that is a tough way to go, isn't it? 40, 50, 60 hour a week study. It's just really hard.
You're setting yourself up for burnout and for panic, I think. Why not spread it out and give your brain a rest once in a while?
Yeah.
Integrate everything.
If you're in the big box, they're not even trying to integrate. They're just trying to have you cram it in and then spit it out. The problem is that empirically, that system doesn't work very well. Most of the people that do that fail. And so if that's your plan, it's not a good plan. And so the other thing I could say about this, because we experience this every exam, but boy, it seemed like we had a lot of it in February, students that did odd things in their studies, what they chose to study or not, or handwrite or not, or times to study, and they didn't share any of that with us. And then the results came out and they said, oh, didn't I mention that I'm doing X, Y, and Z? Even if you think we would not approve of what you're doing, share it with us. And it's ultimately your journey. You can do whatever you want to do, but I think it really is not a good strategy to say, for example, I'm going to handwrite my exam and not tell us. At the very least, you should let us know so that we can help you, A, make the decision, and B, if that is your decision, help deal with it as best we can. I think that when people make exam strategy decisions on their own, they tend to not be great decisions. That's what I've experienced over 30 years. And so it's better for you to share that information with us. So I'd love to have you do that. So where should you be in your study guide at this point? Wherever you are. It's not the issue. The issue is, what should you be doing going forward? And if you're at the very beginning of your studies, 20 hours a week isn't going to get you there. I think that'll be pretty clear. So you really got to look at it and just take a sense of what you need to do to be ready. But again, I want to say that 10th of July is not a hard date. It's the soft date. It's really just a benchmark for you to hit. The other thing, of course, is that every week I send out updated emails with where I think most people are in the course and some videos and some other information. It's really important to watch those and read those emails. They are, most students think they're pretty spot on in terms of knowing what they're going through at that particular moment. So watch for that. It comes out every Monday morning if you're in our course. If you're not in our course, you're getting a version of that, not obviously as specific as our students get, but you are getting some of that. And so would love to have you check that out as well. All right. I thought that what I'd do here very quickly is just play an excerpt. We had an opportunity to have one of our successful February students from the UBE join us at virtual boot camp. And I really loved what he had to share with our students. And I thought it might be interesting to let you hear a little bit of his story and what happened, kind of get a feeling for how the process worked for him. Greg was a photo reader, as you're going to hear. He was skeptical about it. And I want you to hear a little bit about what he said happens. So, Tracey, I'm going to go ahead and start this, and we'll play a little bit of it for everybody now. Yeah. All right, here we go.
And I had a conversation with you about it, and I was like, I don't think this would work. I'm just looking at a page, and I don't think I'm retaining anything. When I was taking the exam, and it was so funny because there's part of photo reading where you're supposed to, but I didn't want people to think I was crazy. And so I did it, but almost pretending like I was yawning. I don't know what it is about doing that, but I felt like something turned on, and things just popped into my head. The information just flooded into my brain. Things passed and happened, but this exam, after practice and doing what Jack said to do, it just came together.
I'm really glad to have you here. You've got an incredible story to tell. I know it's not your nature to brag, but you have something to brag about, don't you?
I definitely do.
Tell us.
I graduated from law school in 2012, and the first time that I took the bar was in July of 2000. Put a lot of time and effort into preparing for the exam, but it just didn't go my way. And I retook it not too long thereafter, I believe the February session, and I got the same result and felt defeated because I was thinking about all the things that I had and couldn't figure out why I couldn't put together like a complete response that would allow me to pass this exam. And there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of frustration, but I was determined to repeat it until I passed the exam. And the other day, I probably took the exam about 8 times, right? And I kept getting around the same score. I was getting 250 something every single time. For life available. My father had passed away in 2021. And prior to that, he knew how much time I was allocating to preparing for the exam. And he was like, son, you're going to get it. And I held on to those words. It's just one of those things where you feel like you're applying all this effort to get something done, to achieve something, but you're not getting what it is that you want to achieve. When I first took it, single, right? I could dedicate all my time to preparing for the exam. 12 years later, I have a family, 2 kids, working full time. And part of me was like, I don't know, ever put this together, just given how much time I had been outside of studying for the exam, that I have to allocate my time to this. And also put together a proper campaign study. And so I was feeling desperate, and I came across Celebration Bar Review, and I reached out to Jackson, and we had a conversation via Zoom. And during this conversation, felt like I was in the right hands. We were talking about my approach, and I told him to keep getting in the 250s. And if you keep taking that same approach, you can keep getting the same score. And he was like, I have a proven method that works. You'll be able to accomplish what it is that you set out to accomplish. You will pass the bar exam. And I was like, even with the month out, like, I don't know if I have time to get through all this material. And Jackson was like, even if you don't have enough time to get through every single thing, if you're able to master my technique, master how you approach an exam question, and you download that information, apply the photo reading techniques, you'll be able to pass. And it all came together and passed the exam. And I was so overjoyed. You can only imagine 12 years of going at it. And to give you some context in terms of the frustration, my law school would have me speak on panels. My job was to tell them about my law school and why they should attend and all the benefits of going to law. These prospective students decided to go to my law school, did 3 years of law school, and then passed the bar exam before I did. And it was like, wow, what is it that I'm not putting together? What is it? And I came to the realization it's all about technique. There's this focus on IRAC and all the bar prep programs, focus on IRAC. IRAC just wasn't working out, but I thought that's how I was supposed to write my answer. And Jackson told me about FLA. It was just a game changer. I'm so grateful, Jackson, just his insight, his support, his approach. It's just phenomenal. And I wouldn't be here today talking to you guys if it weren't for him. I feel like a new man. So again, I'm just so grateful to you, Jackson, for everything that you've done.
All right. There you go. That's very kind of him and exciting that we could do that. I just wanted to point out that oftentimes what happens is that you start with skepticism, you start with frustration, you start with discouragement. If you're doing what we ask you to do, you can change those things around. And so I think it's just really important to be able to have that opportunity to see and hear when people are successful in that way. So I'll share that with you. I know that was a big deal for him to do. All right. I want to move on to some questions that we've gotten from students. This is also the time when we get students coming back into the course who may have been away for a while. One student, and this is the type of question we get, students say, did my bar prep course expire? I thought I had lifetime access. Yes, everyone has lifetime access. One thing you should understand is if you don't communicate with us, if you just foxhole us, and you don't let us know that you took the exam or you took it and you weren't successful or any of that other information, we do remove you from the course so that you have to reach out and contact us. You should contact us, put you back in the course. One of the things we're trying to do is to help you, and we want to see your scores so that we can offer some suggestions. So if you are in that situation, if you're listening or watching and you can't get access to your course, don't panic. Just send us an email. We'll get you set up right away, but we want to know where you are in the process. A student that was foreign trained wrote to us and said, I was going to take the exam in July. I've covered about 30% of the material, which is actually a pretty good number at this stage. And I feel confident in the material, but in any event, they felt like they were behind. And they said, I overestimated my English proficiency and underestimated the influence of having studied law in a different language. And I have an intense workload at my office. And I didn't know the test was so complicated and substantial. Those are all real things. And each one of them plays out. If you are not English as a first language, you typically need more time, but you should be using photo reading. That's one of the ways you get around that. And so then the student said, is it possible to retain access if I delay or postpone? The answer is yes, of course. You can postpone as often as you want in this course. You don't have to give us a reason. And you can postpone as many times as you want to. As we said, we think that it's a good idea to not postpone, but we have no problem if that's your decision. So I just want to say, and I think, Tracey, you see this as well, students who are foreign trained typically need more time to get ready for the exam. But there is still time to get ready for this exam. It just means you got to put in more hours. I think the more significant piece here for this particular individual is that they had a busy workload.
Sure.
Yeah, I will say the other hack is be a photo reader, because what photo reading does is it takes the information in your photo reading in English, your brain is doing the translation non-consciously into your home language, and then you're bringing it back into your conscious mind, able to use it on the exam. So it's a good way to speed up your studies. The next question we've got is a mea culpa for me. I'd like to tell you that I never make mistakes. As Tracey can tell you, that's not true. As June can really tell you, that's not true. Student wrote to me the other night, late at night, and they said, are we using the common law or the model penal code for criminal law bar questions? I forgot what the default rule on the exam is if the question doesn't say it's common law or MPC. And late at night, I quickly wrote back to them and said, it's the model penal code. That's not true. It's the common law. And I knew it was the common law and I just made a mistake. The student then wrote back to me, no, it's the common law, to which made me think, why did you ask me the question in the first place? But in any event, sometimes those mistakes happen. I should let the editors answer those questions instead of me. I thought it was important to do a couple things. One is to say, obviously, criminal law is common law, unless the question says differently. But the student also said, what's the default rule for property and other subjects? In property, it's common law. I don't know what else it would be. If you're in evidence, it's the federal rules of evidence. If you're in civil procedure, it's the federal rules of civil procedure. In most situations, the examiners will tell you what law they're using if there's something unusual in the question. The other way you can find out all of this is in your study guide book. It tells you what that rule of law is. And at the beginning of each outline, we tell you what the established rule is or the body of law. Sometimes you get this question in torts. Is it the second restatement of torts? Yeah, essentially, which is common law. I would say you don't want to overthink this. The questions are pretty obvious, and there's very little where the answer would have been different under MPC versus common law, for example, in crim. I find it interesting sometimes that people nibble around the edges, don't they, Tracey? That's not the reason the student doesn't pass the bar exam. It's a fairly minor piece, but I think sometimes we get fixated on that stuff because it's easier than getting into the heart of the subject.
I think that's true. I really think that you never make mistakes except when you do. But good for the student that they picked up on it. And we're always wanting to make sure that we're
and ultimately we want to get it right, even when I screw up. Another question that we got, student asks, can I view my progress when I'm doing online multiple choice questions? I don't know why there are rocket ships flying over your head, Tracey.
because you admitted you were wrong.
The history here, folks. Anyway, some of the students said, I did online multiple choice. I signed out, but it's taking me back to the beginning to do questions again. We have this question every season. What this student is doing is they're in the 800 question mixed subject practice. That is not designed to record your progress because it will never do it until you've done all 800 questions in one sitting, which isn't going to happen. So if you want to keep track in that 800 question online exam, you need to do that manually. If you're doing the smaller 25 question blocks, it'll keep track once you've finished your 25 in a setting. And if you're doing a full length test, which you shouldn't be doing at this point, it will keep track of that as well. Remember that the whole purpose of doing these online practice MBEs is not to be predictive. It's to help you learn from the question. So the way that we prefer that you study is do a question, review the answer explanation, mind map that, then go on to the next question. And that will give you the information you need. We can see that statistically, and we can always tell you once you've completed or finished out a test. But when you're in the middle of the test and you sign off and then come back, it's going to restart, particularly that 800 question exam. I think that what happens is, again, this is one of those situations where people can get too caught up in the mechanics and they lose sight of the real point of it, which is to help learn the law and get better at it than using, in this case, selective intuition. So I don't know if you've got a comment about that, but I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of what we want people to be doing.
I agree.
Okay, good. Last question before we get to your pub crawl, Tracey. We do get a lot of questions starting at about this point about how to use mind maps. And of course, we've talked about Level Up, and that's a chance for a few students to work one-on-one on their mind maps and submit them to us to look at. But how do you use the mind maps that are in bar maps? One of the things I want to remind you of, if you've got the bar maps product, is that you need to download the mind map you find in bar maps, put it on your computer. When you do that, it will download as a PDF with links to the additional maps that are behind it, because each map is actually just the front-facing map of a subject, and there are usually 2 or 3 or 4 or more maps that go with it. But you can't access those unless you download the first one. Once you've done that, you'll see a link to download the other maps, and then you've got a couple of choices. You can print out those maps, you can review them, you can create your own, using MindMeister. That's the software that we use. But you have to download it and then start creating your own map. What we've done over the last year is to create what I call the hive mind, which is simply letting everyone that's got bar maps modify the maps once they download them and put them in there. Having done that, there's some good things and bad things about that. One thing is you get the benefit of everybody else's work on the mind map, which is great. Problem is not everybody's correct when they're putting things into the mind map. So you need to be careful as you look at it and understand what's in the mind map. And if it doesn't make sense to you, remove it or create your own. You and I found a couple of areas where there were things that weren't as good as we would have done if we'd done them ourselves. Again, the point is it's not a passive study tool, right? It's an active study tool, and you need to be aware of that.
This is what we'd like you to do. If you feel that you need to modify the mind map, the community mind map, we would like you to send us an email with your suggested change. And if we agree with you, we'll certainly put it in there. But that way we can keep track of what's being changed and why. And if there's a good reason for it, we'll do it. But if there is a reason why it shouldn't be in there or it should be modified, then I think you want the benefit of our experience and wisdom before you put it on there for everyone to see.
Yeah. And I think the mind maps are better for having broad community participating and playing into them. And that's what we've seen over the last year. These maps are getting more and more valuable with every week and month that goes by. There's not a lot of mistakes, but there are some things that people put in that we scratch our heads at and say, I don't think that's there. And we take them out when we see them. But as Tracey said, it's helpful if you let us know. If you're not familiar with the Bar Maps product, it's a terrific add-on to your course. It's timestamp videos, it's fast finish audios, and it's the mind maps for every subject on the exam. So there's a lot there. Tracey, pub crawl. Man, you were in Vegas this weekend. Is it anything to do with that?
Yes, I was saying in where I was, but I was in another city this weekend. And instead of losing a bunch of money at the tables, which I don't know why that always happens, but it does, or going to shows because there really wasn't anything besides tribute shows and a couple of country western stars that I didn't feel like paying money to see, my companion and I decided to do a pub crawl through the arts district of lower downtown Las Vegas. Why not? We've never been there. So we got in an Uber and we went down to the arts district, which if you've never been there, it's phenomenal. The murals all over that district are incredible. And we started going into these little dives, basically, and they all had their own unique aspects and motifs to them. We went into one that was a 1970s retro bar, complete with Christmas lights around inside, lots of old board games. We pulled out Scrabble and played that for a little while. Old time arcade games like Pong. Do you remember Pong? We played Pong. So that was neat. We went into another one with a Latino flair, and there were these huge murals of Carlos Santana around. I think he had sponsored at that particular establishment. And it had a unique play on word, taking Spanish words and writing them out as though English speakers were trying to pronounce the words. So that was fun. Then we went into this place that was a pirate motif with all these fish tanks around, and it was very dark and very mysterious. So I was thinking about pub crawl as Jackson and I were putting together Level Up, this opportunity that we've talked to you about on June 15th, where you can come and do your own kind of pub crawl through the topics that are the ones that are most needed for you in your bar study. Jackson will work with you on your MBE practice, and he will work with you individually on that. And there's a full hour there. And if there's enough students that sign up to that one, we have a bleed off hour that we can move some students there. We want to make sure you have a lot of personal attention on these. At 9:00, there is MPT review. If you need to bring an MPT sample and have Jackson cut it all up and show you how to put it back together, that would be an excellent opportunity for that very difficult part of the bar exam. At 10 o'clock, he will go through your photo reading with you and really show you how to improve your photo reading technique and show you how to get the most out of it and how to integrate it then into your mind maps and your other study. At 11 o'clock, he will have, as I said, a choice, whatever you want to talk to him about. Then I'll take over at noon and I can work with you on your time management. It's not too late. Even by June 15th, if you're feeling like you don't have enough time to get ready for the exam and you're not sure how to reorganize your time, I'll work with you to do that so that you are prepared to go into the exam in the next 6 weeks. At 1 o'clock, I will work with you on an essay of your choice. You can submit it to me up to a day before. I'll review it for FLA form and for content, substantive content, and we'll go through it. If you want, you can work on that over the next couple hours and come back again at 3 o'clock with a rewrite, and we'll look at it again. That's a separate fee for that hour, but you can do it that way, or you can submit a second essay and we can work on that one at 3 o'clock. And between those times at 2 o'clock, I'll work with you specifically on mind mapping. So the good thing about a pub crawl is you can pick and choose the places you want to be, how long you want to stay, and what you want to get out of them. And the good thing about Level Up is that is our version of the pub crawl, and you can do the same thing.
I feel like I should have a patch over my eye. A little piratey here. Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about Level Up. This is something that we're trying to offer as a way to really focus in on particular needs that people have, right? I hope that everyone out there that's watching and listening will avail themselves of this. Our goal really is to help you pass. It's really what we're trying to do. Give you the tools you need, the way you need them, in the pricing that you need to make it work for you. Cool stuff coming up. All right. I think we've covered everything today. Pretty quiet day. Good for us. And done in under an hour. Thank you, Tracey, for being here. Thank you, June. I hope everybody has a good study week as we continue on. And we will be back again next Wednesday. Great to all of you. No, Jeff. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.